Locked in this mysterious, dried-out body are many secrets. It was crammed in a storage box and found by accident in a private garage. More sinister still was that it showed signs of foul play.
Well, her injuries show some type of very high trauma.
Who was this? What had happened here? Over 20 years after its initial discovery, state-of-the-art technology may at last provide some answers to who this was and how they died.
This is her
Incredible.
actual skull here.
With modern technology, we have now found really shocking information that we would never have learned.
In 1980, in the sleepy Southern Californian town of Lemon Grove, a grisly discovery was made. A local woman doing some spring cleaning in her garage came upon a dusty old cardboard box. On opening it, to her horror, she found a curled-up dead body. Her immediate thought was that there had been a murder, and she called the sheriff's department.
When the sheriff arrived, he determined that this was not a recent murder, but was an ancient, mummified body, and he had it brought to the San Diego Museum of Man.
The Museum of Man is housed within a complex of beautiful buildings in San Diego. This is where the police brought the mummies for the scientists to study in depth. The seemingly peaceful repose of this young woman's remains belies the fact that her life story is shocking, and her story after death is incredible. Ever since its bizarre discovery in 1980, the mummy has been under the care of anthropologist Rose Tyson. For over 20 years, she's been studying this mummy and has got to know almost every facet of the fragile remains.
When you first see the mummy, it's not clear how her position is arranged, but what we're seeing is the left shoulder here, her left hip, here's her leg, her left leg, her knee, and you can follow the leg down here to the anklets, which are made of cotton, and her 2 feet are crossed. And you can see the tips of her fingers there between the legs. And if you notice, the face is upside down. The eyes are down below, and this is her lips and chin area.
But how did the body end up in a box in a suburban garage?
Curators at the Museum of Man can only guess, but they believe the mummies are...
Back in 1980, the mysterious discovery made network news.
Young when she died, probably 16, 17, 18. And
Little was known about the mummy, but even less was known about exactly how she ended up in the Lemon Grove garage.
It's believed they were left there by the ex-boyfriend of the woman's daughter. Homicide detectives are now in the process of trying to track the man down.
I know of no reason why he shouldn't come forth and volunteer the information to us at this time, but if he doesn't, then we'll attempt to find him in some other way.
Eventually, 2 men came forward and, preferring to remain anonymous, told their incredible tale to Rose. Our story begins over 1,000 kilometers south of San Diego, in the remote Sierra Madre mountains of Chihuahua, northern Mexico.
In 1966, 2 young men from San Diego went to Chihuahua, and this was right before they were going to be drafted for Vietnam. So this was kind of a last lark, they felt.
They had heard rumors that mummies could be found in caves in the mountains. Intrigued by this, the 2 young men set off in search of a mummy. But after about a month of searching, the young men were still empty-handed. They found themselves in a large cave, 20 to 30 feet deep. These caves have been used over many centuries as burial places by the local tribes. The cold, dry air of the high mountain caves naturally mummified the bodies. It wasn't long before the boys found what they were looking for.
There was a child mummy that was fragmentary that they found against the wall. It had been trampled by cattle, so the skull was gone and most of the left side of the body.
The young men collected up the small mummy and ventured further into the dark cave. They came upon a mysterious object wrapped in palm leaf matting. To their amazement, it was a curled up, completely intact adult mummy. The mummy was in the fetal position and wrapped in a mat. It was in very good condition. The hair was shiny black and the skin was smooth, although as dry as leather. Evidence suggested that she'd been buried according to ancient traditional funerary rituals, which had been carried out here for generations. Her body was laid to rest along with several food offerings in a pit lined with pine tree bark. She was then covered with soil. It may be that these ancient people didn't realize that these conditions would result in mummification. Many mummies found throughout the world, such as the famous mummies of ancient Egypt, were preserved by elaborate embalming rituals. However, the Lemon Grove mummy is an example of a naturally preserved mummy. There are other examples of this fascinating phenomenon. These 500-year-old Inuit mummies were found in caves in Greenland. These Peruvian baby mummies were discovered in the high Andes. With all these mummies, it was the cold, dry air and the protection of the caves that was the key to their preservation.
So maybe there had been something in the fact that the pine bark, has a lot of pine rosin, and maybe that helped keep out some of the bacteria that would cause putrefaction. So she dried up just perfectly without decaying.
For the two men who found the mummies, the question was, what to do with them? After smuggling them across the border into the United States, the two men secretly stored them in a girlfriend's garage, without her parents' knowledge. And there they left them, sealed in a cardboard box, undisturbed, for 14 years. The first task for Rose in her forensic investigation was to X-ray the bodies. She focused her attention on the adult mummy. Examination of the pelvis and the teeth confirmed that this was a young girl of about 15 years of age.
A mummy is like a time capsule from the past. And when we had our first X-rays, we were astonished to find that there was information that was such a surprise to us that we had to go further and find the full details.
The X-rays revealed a tragedy. Nestling among the girl's bones was a collection of far smaller bones, those of an unborn baby.
When we first saw that she was pregnant, this was quite a revelation because we knew we had something that was incredibly unusual and unique.
But there was more to come. The girl's femur or thigh bone had been wrenched out of place.
A femur head fits right in that socket. That's the strong hip socket. The femur head was out about 1/2 inch. The other one on the left side was in perfect condition. So this entire side of the pelvis was moved forward. This was dislocated and this was dislocated.
Initial forensics raised as many questions as they answered. For Rose, the picture is still hazy.
One of the most important questions that I wanted answered was, why did she die?
This girl suffered terrible injuries and died at a very young age, pregnant with her unborn infant. Further forensic investigation using the most up-to-date technology available may help Rose find out why she met this untimely end. Anthropologist Rose Tyson is investigating the death of a young woman. Rose is determined to find out how this expectant mother met her untimely end before she was able to give birth to her baby. The mummy is surprisingly light. Much of human body weight is in its water content, so a dried-out mummy is a fraction of its former weight. This allows Rose to easily move the mummy around as she inspects it. Several interesting details are revealed, such as an ancient body adornment.
Her left ear is visible, and if you look carefully, you can see that there is a little wooden plug sticking through a hole in her earlobe, which would keep the hole open for ear ornaments.
Under close examination, Rose discovers something more sinister, evidence of a severe blow to the head.
What we're seeing here is the surface of her skull, and there is a smooth area that is the normal skull surface, and then above that is a porous area which shows she had a blow to the back of the skull and it healed. The blood in the bruise ossified or changed to bone.
It's certain that this injury was no killer blow, as the damage healed sometime before the girl died. Rose is none the wiser as to the cause of death. If she can find out more about her life, she may well be able to decipher the facts surrounding her death. The woven string skirt found on the mummy will provide Rose with a good idea of when the girl lived.
We were able to get a C14 date on some of the string skirt, and the age was over 800 years old. So we knew this was before European contact with this part of the world.
Traditional Mexican culture is alive and well in San Diego, thanks to its large Hispanic population. The city is full of Mexican restaurants serving the same simple dishes that have been prepared and eaten for generations. It is in one of these that Rose meets Dr. Amadeo Rea, an expert in early Mexican culture.
Well, all of those people in the Sierras were pretty much living the same lifestyle. They were gatherers of wild foods, they were hunters, and they were agriculturalists, so they were all growing corn. And
Dr. Rea explains that the staple diet for hundreds of years in the High Sierra region was corn. The girl would have carried out the daily duties of grinding the corn to make masa, a kind of moist dough. This would be used primarily for making tortillas, a soft, flat corn bread.
corn was there at every meal. Breakfast, lunch, supper, and even in drinks, corn would have been one of the main components of the drinks.
The carbon dating of the Lemon Grove mummy has helped Dr. Rea to more accurately place her in a historical context.
The women were very important in the culture. They did lots of weaving with fiber. They made the ceramics, they made the pottery, they made the ollas.
Would it have been unusual for a young teenage girl who lived during this era to be pregnant?
Women in her society at that time probably married at a very young age. By about 13 or 14, most girls would have been married, and a girl of about 15 in her society probably had one or perhaps two children by that age.
This is not the time to fall down.
Today, the mummy of this young woman is going on yet another journey. Rose is taking her to be CAT scanned at a medical clinic in San Diego. Will this finally reveal her fate? The event has aroused the interest of the media. Several local news crews are here to witness this exciting, high-tech look at the mummy.
Found in the hills of Chihuahua, Mexico by two San Diego men, the mummy eventually ended up...
This could be Rose's opportunity to get to the bottom of this ancient mystery.
We hope that the new CAT scans would tell us more fine detail about all of the trauma that is hidden in her bones and possibly anything about cause of death.
The CAT scan takes hundreds of images, each showing a different slice. Rose and the team will be able to view every part of the mummy, inside and out, without damaging it. For Rose, who has known this mummy for over 20 years, it's an exciting moment.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a view I've never seen. The entire spine. What an incredible image.
The CAT scan images are loaded into a powerful computer. Within minutes, monitors display breathtaking 3D images of the mummy. The complete skeleton can be viewed in exquisite detail from all angles. Rose is taken through the results by Chief Radiologist Dr. Brian Moffat.
Well, Rose, you're really going to be impressed by these images. The images that we're looking at right now are 1.3 millimeter sections, and we can take this data and use it to reconstruct three-dimensional renderings.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
And this is her,
That's
her
incredible.
actual skull here.
Oh.
So that's
incredible.
We can see the exact definition of her face and skull.
These 3D renderings of the CAT scan images reveal the injuries to the girl's skeleton in detail, some of which Rose has never seen before.
Possibly could have had a shoulder dislocation or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And she did have a blow to the back of her skull because there's an ossified hematoma back there.
Is that right? Let's look and see if we can. Seems to be some thickening there, a little bit of ossification right here.
Oh.
That's it right there.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. So
amazing.
So that's
Rose is still no closer to identifying the cause of death, but she can see how harsh life was 850 years ago, even for a fit young woman.
So she probably led a fairly rugged life.
it appears that she had a very rugged life. So.
Eking out an existence in the windswept, rugged Sierra Madre mountains hundreds of years ago would undoubtedly have been full of hazards, especially for a pregnant young woman.
This woman would have been living in a country that was extremely rugged. Huge canyons that go down to subtropical areas and upper slopes that are pine oak woodlands, beautiful, beautiful wooded areas.
The women of the tribe spent much time alone in this harsh environment, harvesting food.
This girl would have been out and knowing how to gather wild plants. She would have been harvesting things like prickly pear, manzanita berries, acorns, and other wild berries and fruit. And they traveled enormous distances going through the mountains on these trails that they'd been using for centuries.
Such rough terrain would have been heavy going for a pregnant woman. Rose was never able to tell from the x-rays how many months into her pregnancy the girl was. Using the high-definition image now available, Brian can assess how well developed the fetus was.
Superimposed over the maternal pelvis, just the faintest outline of the fetal ribs right here. You can see them. That's where these little white lines relate to the fetal ribs there.
By careful analysis of each section of the CAT scan, Brian can pick out the fetus's individual bones.
CAT scan, we can see inside the pelvis, and this is part of the fetal parts. And again, we're seeing
from the baby's thigh bone, he will be able to judge how advanced the pregnancy was.
Here's the thigh or femur with a measurement of almost 7 centimeters that would place the fetus at about 30 weeks, 7.5 months.
So the young woman was just a few weeks away from birth. The CAT scans also reveal that the baby's head is in the birthing position, suggesting that labor was imminent or had even already begun. Tragically, it was a birth that was never to be completed. The cause of her death is still puzzling Rose.
So it looks normal?
It looks normal, yes. Now that we're in the maternal pelvis, there's some interesting findings here. I'm not sure, maybe with your background and knowledge of her, you might be able to shed some light on it. It looks like there's pieces of bone that have broken off the right side of the pelvis near the sacroiliac joint.
Brian can see the hip dislocation that Rose identified on the x-rays. He can also make out several fractures associated with this injury. It turns out to be far worse than Rose had thought.
You can see that the thigh bone has slipped out of the socket compared to the normal appearance of her left hip. And then the fracture in the front of the pelvis there. All three of these commonly associated with serious injuries.
So
And
today, how would a person get that kind of trauma?
usually when we see an injury like that, it's a high-speed car accident. Where a person would be T-boned or a car would strike at a perpendicular angle and with a very strong driving force through the door and injure a person like this. And quite frequently it can be a life-threatening problem unless their appropriate treatment is quickly available. So you could just imagine her predicament
Yes.
900 years ago.
And
if
being
that-
pregnant to have this kind of injury.
No question, that would have been a very difficult situation.
So she may have overbalanced, lost her footing, and fallen down the treacherous mountainside of the Sierra Madre and lain helpless at the bottom of the ravine. The fall would almost certainly have killed her. But why did she fall in the first place? Dr. Rhea reckons she fell while running away from a serious threat.
Occasionally there were raids from one tribe to another. Girls would be stolen during raids, and I think it is possible that this young girl was running away from someone who was trying to capture her.
So, in fleeing the clutches of rival tribesmen for whom a fertile woman would have been a prize catch, the girl fell to her death. Thanks to the care with which her people buried her, and a bizarre set of circumstances that led to her remarkable preservation, her body is still here today, a valuable window into the past.
When you have a mummy, you have the actual remains of that person. So it is a very personal thing. She has a very strong aura about her, and I think people are drawn to her.
The fact that life was snatched away from not only this young woman, but also her unborn child, has tugged at the heartstrings of many. But thanks to modern science, the legacy of the Lemon Grove mummy will last forever.